guys, welcome in WagerTalk.com. It is time to look ahead week 15 in the NFL. He is Teddy Covers. I am Joe Raineri, and we are chugging along here, Teddy. It's kind of crazy. It's been a little crazy, too. Certainly from a look-ahead situation doing this show. COVID is really, it's kind of thrown a lot of guys into a loop, a lot of teams into a loop. Des Bryant getting pulled off the field. Teams, their schedule's getting all kind of crazy. What was once a good number a week ago, we're keeping our fingers crossed that these games are actually going to happen in time. It's been it's been different to say the least this year.
And here we are in December. And every game in the NFL that's supposed to have been played has been played. So for all the kerfuffle that we've seen, and it's been, there's something to watch every week. There's something to bet on every week, and the games are being played. And for all the, look, there is a lot of uncertainty. Mm-hmm. As a handicapper, I've adjusted. I'm putting out plays later in the week than I usually do. In a normal week, I'll have something out, or in a normal year, we'll have something out early in the week. This year, we're taking our time. But it's been a pretty good run in the NFL. The clients and I are winning. I have no complaints about the season, the way that it's unfolding. But from a look-ahead line standpoint, it means, not tap the brakes completely.
Right.
But we're going to take things relatively light. And, of course, there's only one more week after this week of look-ahead lines. We'll have week 16 numbers next week. But we're already in December, and there is nothing for week 17 when it comes to look-aheads. There's not much. Actually, last year, I think they didn't put them out. And then last year, maybe they did put them out for week 17.
Yes.
I thought that it was a different change. But anyhow, there's a few more weeks of this exercise. And it's a worthwhile exercise to do every week, whether we find something or not, whether it's a COVID year or not. It's something that is a good part of the process. And this is for my ears, and I'm sure for the vast majority of our viewer and watchers' ears, this is the first time we're getting a glimpse of what the betting point spreads are for next week. So it's a worthwhile exercise.
Absolutely. It's great for the future. It's great getting an understanding of the marketplace, and certainly this time of year as we head into, again, week 14 this week, guys, we're looking ahead to week 15, and keeping that in mind, we'll start with a Thursday night game next week, Teddy, on the 17th, and the Los Angeles Chargers will be heading to the Las Vegas Raiders. And, the Raiders will be giving those Chargers 3.5 points at home here. So where do you have these two teams right now?
3.5 point difference.
There we go.
So, I have a 2.5 point difference, and I'm giving right now a single point for home fields unless proven otherwise. So, in this instance, I have a 2.5 point powering differential and 1 point for Allegiant Stadium. And Allegiant Stadium, I know they covered against Kansas City. They've already lost 3 times on this field this year. It hasn't been this dominant home field for the Raiders just yet. No. So we don't want to overemphasize how much that home field is worth. But I will say this, the Chargers this week, if they lose at home to Atlanta, the market is going to crash on the Chargers.
Yep.
All right. It already crashed a little bit, and it may well crash more. So if you want to bet against the Chargers this Sunday in week 14, you may want to think about betting against them next week as well at the same time.
Yep.
You're right about the one. The markets are this close to giving up on the Chargers. It feels like after the debacle last week against the Patriots.
Now, it will be a short week, so it would be a Thursday night next week, and the Raiders are home this week, I believe, against the Colts, which they're a dog in. So I don't know how much you take that into consideration. Raiders will have at least home surroundings for the week, but like you said, 3.5, it's right about where it should be at this point.
The Chargers are the team whose game this week is more likely to dramatically influence the point spread. If the Chargers lose, they're going to be done, and the market's going to look at them. If the Raiders lose, they're going to say, hey, they lost to a good team like the Colts who won the previous week. You're still in the playoff chase. The markets will not crash on Vegas.
Yep. Saturday games next week, too, guys. December 19th here. We'll start with the late game listed here, 343, 344. Carolina Panthers will be heading to Lambeau to take on the Packers. And the Packers, they are going to be given 9.5 points in this game. Where do we have the Carolina Panthers and their XFL quarterback?
9.5?
9.5. Here it is. Get ready for that look. 9.5.
Well, it's okay. But here's the issue right now.
Right.
So I have a 5-point powering differential. It's a Saturday night TV game. We're going to give a 1.5 for Lambeau.
Oh, okay.
This, I said unless I'm going to give a point. Unless it might even be worth 2 points in this spot. But I think a 1.5 is reasonable, which makes my number 6.5, which says that there's value on the Carolina side. But and I don't have the Pack. I mean, I have the Packers as my third highest power rated team.
Okay.
It's not like I'm looking at Green Bay as less than elite. Green Bay's elite. But there's a COVID outbreak in the Carolina facilities this week. They had 8 guys out. They had the stuff closed down Monday. They had stuff closed down Tuesday. And that could well be affecting them in any number of different ways moving forward. So be aware that even though right now my number says there's value there, my number on the Panthers may not be right. It may well be a good notch too high, given the COVID outbreak that is ongoing, that I know only that there are guys out, but I don't know who.
Yeah. Well, that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
So that's basically where we're at. Interesting, though, heading into a Saturday, the first Saturday NFL. We're winding down when we start getting Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday games in the NFL. And how about everyone's darling, the Buffalo Bills, who's screaming, we don't get any love. They too are going to be playing next Saturday against the Denver Broncos in Denver. Buffalo laying 5 on the road with these Denver Broncos here, who certainly, if nothing else, we know Denver can play some defense. We know Vic Fangio, and even when they're going to come to play. What say you, though? Where do you have these two teams rated right now?
So I have a 7-point powering differential between the two. So put the game in Denver. And this is another game where I'm going to give a 1.5 for the home field. Maybe I should give more. And you could say, that's actually, the Broncos home field is only worth a point. Situationally, think about where Buffalo is. Off a huge Monday night win, off a huge Sunday night game, now going on the road on a short week, off their 2 biggest games since the last time they were in the playoffs, which was last year. But the big regular season games for the Bills. The markets are going to adjust for the spot for Buffalo. It's going to be there will be anti-Bills money. And that will be, if the Bills beat the Steelers on Sunday night, it's going to be a sharp square divide game.
Yeah.
The pros are going to recognize that it's a bad spot. And the Joes are going to say, we just watched the Bills kick San Fran's ass, and now we're going to watch them kick Pittsburgh's ass or win and cover. So should that be the – but again, I've got 7 points differential between the two teams, but I think the situation on the home field is worth at least 2 in that spot, maybe 2.5. So my number would be 4.5, 5, which is right around where the number is.
Right, which is where it is, yep. We talked about the Raiders playing the Colts this week, week 14. Well, next week, the Colts will be home, and they'll be laying 6.5 against the, all of a sudden, giant pain in the butt after getting rid of your coach, GM, the Houston Texans now, getting 6.5 on the road. Divisional matchup against Phillip Rivers and the Colts. Where do you got these two teams right now?
So I have 3.5 points difference on a neutral.
Okay. But
I have Indy a little bit lower than market, and I think I have Houston a little bit above market. So my number there, we put in Indy as 4.5 point game.
Right.
The markets, not to say they've crashed on the Texans, but some of the Texans stats are, the Texans can't run the football. Okay.
Right.
And, the Steelers can't run the football either, but the Pittsburgh kept on winning. But, it's been a long season for Houston. They've had all kinds of, issues in the receiving core.
Yep. And
despite having the elite quarterback, the markets are going, we don't care about the elite QB. This is just not a good team. And I've been a little bit higher on the Texans, which was good for me until last week.
Right.
In that weird second half. Although, honestly, a bad snap that's costing the game. They're supposed to win that game. Didn't happen. And Indy, I continue to be concerned about their offensive line. The starting left tackle, Costanzo, out. The backup out. IR. Now it's a third stringer protecting Phillip Rivers' blind side. And that's They didn't score a point in the second half last week. But my number comes a little bit shorter.
It's going to be a little bit, yeah.
At +7, I mean, you say, yeah, you want Houston here for sure.
Well, if Houston beats the Bears this week, right? And let's say the Colts win, is this number's not going any? I mean, I don't think it's going to hit 7, right? At any point. So 6.5, if you like the Colts, is probably about. I don't think it's going to crash, even if they lose to the Raiders. Do you?
Yeah, I'm with you. The number's coming in this range.
Yep.
My number's a little bit shorter.
This is an interesting game because it's always funny to watch these teams when they fire their coach, right, mid-season. And Detroit, for instance, coming back last week to beat, thank goodness it was Chicago for Detroit Lions fan, but they took care of business. They will be traveling to Tennessee to take on the Titans. And that's going to be 8.5 points for the Tennessee Titans at home to give to these Lions here. Where do you have this new energy with the Lions now? Where do you have these two teams?
I got a touchdown differential between the two. So you put it in Tennessee, that makes it 8.5, right there.
Right.
If the Lions pull the upset over the Packers this week,
yes,
that number will come shorter. So if you like Detroit, particularly if you like Detroit money line this week, maybe take them +8.5.
Okay.
Because then you'll start. We've seen it with Atlanta. When they fired their coach and started winning. We saw it with Houston when they fired their coach and started winning. If the Lions have the same trajectory and start winning multiple games, including an upset win, over a good team, there will be support for the Lions in the markets next week. So I'm not convinced that's going to happen.
And heaven forbid Tennessee loses to Jacksonville. Let's let's not even talk about that possibility because I don't know what the hell the markets would do with Tennessee then at that point.
So the markets have, every time the markets have fallen in love with Tennessee, the Titans have played poorly immediately after, and then the markets say, "Oh, this Titans team, they're a fraud on globally," and then the Titans win. Look really good for another week. And it's worth noting. We'll save it for the Browns. We'll save it when it comes to the Browns. About what happened in last week's game when Titans got blown out. Well, whatever. Now that I teased it, I may as well use it. There's all this disrespect in the markets because the Browns have a bad point differential, and then they kill Tennessee, and at the end of the game, they laid up like a +6 in the game instead of a +30 in the game.
That's correct.
And they still have a bad point differential, and there's still no respect for the Browns in the markets. Really.
Zero.
But the Titans have the market respect waxes and wanes pretty dramatically with Tennessee. If they lose to the Jags, they still might be 8.5.
8.5, right? Exactly. Detroit, I love it. Speaking of which, the New York Jets over the last week have figured out what their issues were, and apparently it was Greg Williams. So Greg Williams, no longer the defensive coordinator for the Jets. He got fired. So the Jets next week, and the Jets' schedule is not difficult at all at the end of the year. But next week, they've got the Rams. They're going to be traveling to the West Coast. I thought it would be at least 2 touchdowns. It's under 2 touchdowns. 13.5 the Rams will be laying at home against the New York Jets. Where do you have these two teams right now?
Were you being facetious about the Jets' back half of the schedule?
Absolutely correct, yes. Seattle, it's a mess.
The Jets had their game to win.
Exactly.
Greg Williams didn't want it. Jets played hard last week.
They did, yes.
I'll give them credit. And realistically, the Raiders had 9 tries on 1st and goal on that last try, counting all the penalties. And they only made one of them, and it was a penalty. So it was incomplete after incomplete after incomplete. I mean, the defense got the job done.
Yep.
And then the offense couldn't run out the clock, and then Williams called a pretty bizarre play. All that said, my differential between the Rams and the Jets, and remember, when we get into this range, the home field edge, I don't use it, or I'll factor in a half point or none once you get into double digits. And I've got a 13.5 point differential between the Rams and the Jets. And I think I'm a little bit lower in the market on the Jets. They certainly was last week, and I am again this week. So the Jets, there's been enough wise guy support in the betting markets for the New York Football Jets that, I made my numbers that I would never be tempted to take them.
We said it a long time ago.
But they've been covering some numbers, so maybe that wasn't such a smart idea. and B, there's going to be wise guy support for the Jets. The syndicates and the sharp money often likes the big double-digit dogs in December in non-division games where the home favorites are A, worn down, B, looking forward to the playoffs, and C, not necessarily that interested.
I haven't looked on what the travel schedules be, much like when we talked about the Patriots last week, spending back-to-back weeks on the West Coast. What are they going to do? The Jets are in Seattle this week, so I don't know if they're staying or they're not staying. I don't even know if it's going to make a difference. It's going to be interesting to see. All those guys that were playing hard for the Jets were playing on that side of the ball for Greg Williams, so I don't know how it's going to work out here, but it's worth keeping an eye on. Tampa Bay heading to Atlanta, taking on the Falcons. Look at this big division rival here. 1.5. Interesting. Tampa Bay Bucks, just a 1.5 point favorite on the road in Atlanta. Where do you got these two teams in your book?
Isn't that an interesting number?
Yeah, real interesting.
So I have a 4.5 point differential. We're not giving the Falcons more than a point at home.
Oh, right.
So my number says 3.5. I've been a little bit below the market on Atlanta in recent weeks.
Okay.
They've looked good against everyone that's not the Saints, but they played the Saints twice in the last 3 weeks.
Right, exactly. Yep.
And now and it's a Falcons team that's again getting respect this week.
Yes,
in the markets when you look at the number against the Chargers. But really, let's talk about Tampa for a minute, because Tampa went into the bye as a team that was, playing competitive. They covered against Kansas City. They covered against the Rams. I don't know, they didn't cover but against the Chiefs, they got after falling behind 21-0 early. They ended up getting the money in that game against Kansas City. But they certainly didn't win a whole lot. Haven't been winning a whole lot of late.
Right.
And should they lose to Minnesota, this line makes sense.
Yes. And
if they beat Minnesota and look good beating Minnesota, this line doesn't make any sense.
There's a lot of folks looking at that 6.5 points this week with Minnesota right now who are convinced they have a good shot on the money line. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here with this team. Remember week 6 when we first started this, Teddy? It was week 6, and at that particular time, it was Tom Brady going to the Super Bowl, and it's Gronk, and then it was and Teddy to this day was one of the only guys that was like, whoa, people, slow down on Tampa Bay here, all right? Slow down. We don't know what they are yet, all right? Don't get all fooled here. And look at the market right now, Teddy. What a difference, 9 weeks makes. Now all of a sudden they're only a 1.5 favorite on the road in Atlanta.
So again, if you think the Bucks are a good bet this week, lay a 1.5 in Atlanta, because you're not going to see that number.
Nope.
Tampa covers this week. That number will be higher, even if the Falcons blow out the Chargers.
The Dolphins, interesting game this week that they have, but next week also very interesting as they welcome in the New England Patriots. And that is going to be the Dolphins laying 3. Some people feel like the Dolphins are going to be the new kings of the AFC East. They're laying 3 points at home with the New England Patriots. Where do you have these two teams?
I got the Dolphins 2 points higher under neutral.
2 points. Okay.
So that's a line that makes perfect sense. If Miami pulls the upset over KC, all right, maybe there's a hook on that.
Okay. Yep.
It might be 3.5.
Yep.
But
especially if the Patriots lose, sure.
If New England pulls the upset over the Rams,
oh boy,
and Miami gets smacked,
it's going the other way.
Not to do shorter.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So it's one of those situations where if you like one of those two teams this week, you may want to make a bet for next week. But the line is where it and that line, there's malleability there. Okay, it could move based on this week's result. So it's not a situation to say, but if you like one of those two teams this week, you may want to make 2 bets instead of 1.
Absolutely. Yep. Seattle, they'll be all right. They got the Jets to get out all their frustrations this week. But next week, look at that. I think aren't they the first place Washington football team will be at home? It's just weird even saying it. But Washington will be home next week. Seattle will be on their way to the East Coast again. It feels like they've been on the East Coast the last 6 weeks. 3 points is what Seattle will bring with them. So they'll be a road favorite of 3 against Washington.
Yeah, I've got a 4-point differential on a neutral. I'm certainly not giving the Washington football team a big home field edge. Even with Seattle, again, the West Coast team traveling east for the early start game. The Seahawks have done that and done fairly well doing that in the Pete Carroll era. So 3 is the appropriate number for where it should be. And unlike the previous game that we just talked about, I'm not convinced this is one of those malleable lines, all right?
Okay.
Seattle, if Seattle loses to the Jets, straight up, they'll still be 3-point chalk.
I agree.
If they beat the Jets by 30, they'll still be 3-point chalk. And Washington, a team that the markets appear to be reevaluating. I mean, if Washington beats San Fran this week, maybe we'll see a market reevaluation of them, because it feels like it's overdue. Maybe
it's come. Well, I mean, Alex Smith is such a good story. It's, you got a coach that's battling. I mean, there's so many other things playing into people's support right now for the Washington team, and that defense is no joke. Any which way we cut it, that defense is no joke.
They have a defensive line that's capable of taking over games.
Absolutely.
They beat the Steelers because the defensive line blew up every play for series on end. And eventually, the opposing defense gets tired. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, it wasn't anything.
Nope.
They win ugly, but teams that win ugly make you money.
Correct.
If Washington wins this week, if Washington wins this week and Seattle loses to the Jets, maybe it's shorter. But that line feels like a 3. It feels like it's going to be painted 3.
Yep, probably going to be there forever. How about we talked about the Vikings, right? So let's talk about them next week here. They are going to be laying 6.5 at home, taking on the Bears, who in some people. It's less than a touchdown. If Minnesota wins, I got to think that number gets not 6.5, maybe down to 6 or 5 or somewhere along those lines. I don't think anybody cares what the Bears do anymore. Where do you have these two teams, though? Are they a touchdown apart?
Yeah, I just realized. A minute ago, I said the line was going to be painted 3. That just means it's 3 everywhere. You don't find any variance when the line's painted. When it comes to the Bears, who I've been crashing the Bears in my power ratings.
You did or did not? You did?
I have, absolutely.
Oh, okay, good.
Every week they go down. And then this last week, I'm like, that felt like the last straw, for a team that it really did. And if the Bears lose to Houston this week, there's not going to be any support in the markets for Chicago. They really won't. Minnesota hangs tough, and they don't have to win the game. All they have to do is hang around in Tampa. And they will continue. Again, we're seeing a different role for the Vikings. The Vikings have been home favorites each of the last 3 weeks. They failed to cover each of the last 3 weeks. Now they're road dogs. It's a different role completely. And any of the last 3 final scores works out for Minnesota's favor. They'll get a little bit of love. But to make a short story long, I have 5 points differential between the two. Home field. Minnesota's home field has not been good, not been good at all. And historically, it's been in the Zimmer years, it's been great. So all these trend bettors are like Minnesota at home, Minnesota non-conference at home, Minnesota division at home. They've all gotten slapped around pretty good this year. My number's shorter, but only slightly. What did you say the number was? 6.5? I've lost your audio. I'll keep going while you're fixing your audio. Battery problem. Love it. All right. But the problem is I don't know what the next game is. So in the meantime.
Hey, hold on. Wait, we got it. We're back. Look at that. Battery.
That didn't take any time at all.
This segment brought to you by Duracell.
I don't look at these. Yeah. The whole thing is I don't look at them ahead of time. So I'm not, I don't have the sheet in front of me. So I don't know what the next game to go to is. But,
well done, Teddy. That was smooth. That was silk right there. Talk to me about the Jacksonville Jaguars as the next game. We can't seem to get away from these shit teams. Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to Baltimore, taking on the Ravens. Ravens laying 11 against this Jags team.
So I haven't adjusted my Baltimore power rating from Tuesday's game yet.
Okay.
So I'm going to do it in my head and mentally, but I don't know that it's accurate. And my number's a little bit shorter, because the Baltimore is a team that certainly look capable of beating a bottom feeder. They just did it.
Right.
And the Harbaugh's got a pretty good MO. The Jags have fought every game. I don't think Doug Marrone is not the problem in Jacksonville. I'll just put it that way. But I've actually been raising the Jags in my power ratings in recent weeks because of their competitive efforts.
Yes.
They could have laid down last week 15 different times. They didn't lay down. They fought tooth and nail to the in overtime. But anyhow, my number would be a 10 here.
Right.
At the most, 9.5, 10, adjusting up for Baltimore, which I haven't done yet.
Glennon has shown that there's a reason why he was considered a pretty valuable backup and he got a big check there in his career, but he all of a sudden makes that team look like they're capable of winning, especially when you got Shark, you got the guys that aren't hurt all the time, but a lot of youth. And like the Jets, we said, they play hard each and every week. I don't think anybody's just walking into Jacksonville and thinking they're going to steamroll them because they're coming to play.
They have pretty consistently, for a team that's on as long of a skid as they've been on. Again, they beat Indy opening day. They haven't won since.
Yes.
And sometimes it's hard, when you're losing week after week, you have these games where you get blown out. We saw the defense really struggle over the first half of the season.
Yep.
They have all kinds of injuries everywhere, and they're fighting. The guys who've come in are fighting, and the defense has gotten better, and that's, I give credit to the coach for that. But my number comes shorter. Baltimore is a difficult team for me to get I don't feel great about my Raven numbers right now.
Tough to tell. Very tough to tell. How about this team? We talked about them in the beginning, but the New York Giants. Very interesting here. And I know we talked to our friend Ralph Michael a little bit earlier, and he gave us some stats about double-digit dogs winning, the week before. And this week, of course, the Giants have a very interesting matchup. But next week, even more interesting here, the fact that the Cleveland Browns will be coming to MetLife Stadium, and the Cleveland Browns will be bringing 3 points with them. So Browns are on the road as a favorite against the New York Giants. How do you have these two teams right now?
I've got the Browns 2 points better than the Giants on a neutral.
Wow. Okay.
But I'm off market on the Giants. And it's a Daniel Jones power rating, not a Colt McCoy power rating.
Good point.
The information that I have is that it looks very likely that Jones is going to play this week.
Yep.
Although that's not official or a done deal. Even if he doesn't play this week, you have to assume that he plays next week.
Right.
And if again the Giants are in a they're in a tight point spread against India, a short point spread against Arizona, I should say, this week.
Yep.
The type of game that whoever wins is likely to cover. And if the Giants win, what is it? Their fifth in a row?
Correct.
Against Arizona, they ain't going to be. What did you say the number was? 3?
It's 3, yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be a little bit shorter than that.
A little shorter than that, yep.
If they beat Arizona.
Yes.
So if you like the Giants against Arizona, you take a +3 again next week.
So this Cleveland team is so interesting. Philadelphia, the Eagles. Oof. Let's welcome in the Hurts era. The Eagles taking on that Arizona team you mentioned. Arizona at home. They'll be laying 6.5 in this game as a home favorite against Philadelphia, who I guess technically is still alive for the NFC least title.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Just went out,
It's still
Eagles
live.
are very live to win it.
Yep.
As live as live can be.
Yep.
And you get them as a nice dog price to win the division.
Got a shot.
If you've done it correctly, you could have every team in the NFC East at better than 10-1 to win.
Good point.
And it doesn't matter who. You could have all 4 teams. I think if you got at the best price for everyone, you might even have every team in the division at better than 20-1 to win it.
Wow. Yeah.
Which is, it's 4 bets and you're getting 20-1 on one of them.
Yep.
It's doable.
Very doable.
Yeah.
6.5 though. Arizona, you have them as a 6.5 point. Where's your number between the Eagles and the Cardinals?
Let's see. I have no, not that high.
I didn't think so.
I've got 4.5 point differential on a neutral. But it feels like the markets are, if Philly doesn't spark this week with Jalen Hurts, the markets are going to crash on the Eagles.
Yep.
You know, if Arizona gets the win and snaps the Giants' winning streak, there'll be support there. So, my number's a little bit shorter. It's not one of these. Oh yeah, it's a done deal.
Right.
You got to take Philly at that price. I'm not going to ask anyone to put their money on Philly right now.
No, too much of the unknown. How about Kansas City this week in Miami, taking on the Dolphins, and next week they'll be on the road taking on the Saints. And Kansas City will be a 3-point favorite on the road heading to New Orleans here. I gotta believe. Is it about 2 or 3? Where's your number right here?
I have a 4-point differential on a neutral field, which makes this 2.5, 3.
Yep, right about there.
That being said, I never adjusted down for Taysom Hill.
No, that's right.
Okay. And it's paid off. Again, I mean, they're 8-0 straight up, 8-0 against the spread without Drew Brees behind center the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I heard, and I haven't checked anything this week, but I heard that they were targeting week 15 against KC for Brees' return.
Okay. So
I don't know if that's accurate or not. That was a week or two back. But I would think that if Brees does play, that number may be a little bit shorter. Regardless of whether KC wins or loses at Miami.
Right.
If the Saints get upset in Philly this week, I don't think it matters that much. It's about whether Drew Brees is healthy enough or back on the field. If not, the Saints will be +3. I think that'll be the right number.
It'll be interesting to see how Kansas City approaches this game because, Kansas City, there is some thought that Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, that offense is capable of much more, but they don't have any intention of showing anything until they have to. And they've been able to get by winning games with defense and special teams and big plays at the right time. 2 big games back to back, though, for the Chiefs here, both on the road. Miami's not going to be an easy place to play. That defense is for real, but that's back-to-back tough defense. It's going to be a good test for Kansas City.
I agree.
Yeah.
And we'll see as to, because I've had the Chiefs that basically lap the field, power rating-wise, all year.
Right.
I've had Kansas City ahead of my number 2 team by no less than 4 points at any time this season. And should they face some struggles the next 2 weeks, maybe we have to bring that number down to earth a little bit. But the markets haven't been there, and I haven't been there yet. In my mind, the Chiefs should be prohibitive favorites to repeat as Super Bowl champs. They look like the best team. They feel like the best team, and
they are.
That doesn't mean they won't have spots. Doesn't mean they're not going to lose games.
Right.
In the regular season. But KC is better than the rest of the NFL.
Absolutely.
And this point spread shows it.
Yeah, exactly. Especially on the road with a possible return to Drew Brees. How about the 49ers? Look at this. If this was the 90s, it would be amazing. The Niners taking on the Cowboys in this game in Dallas. At Glendale. This is going to be at Glendale, Arizona. 49ers are going to be a 2.5 point favorite against these Cowboys. Look, there it is.
Are you sure it's going to be in Glendale?
It says it right above the 49ers name, at Glendale, Arizona.
That'd be 3 straight home games for San Fran?
Or action wherever played.
Because aren't they in San Fran? They're in Glendale this week, and they were in Glendale on Monday night. It's possible. I haven't looked at the schedule, but you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
If you're looking at the sheet is right. Okay?
Yes, yeah. It states Glendale, at Glendale, and
so it looks like
played.
It's three straight home games for San Fran. And San Fran, who is it? San Fran?
Dallas.
And I haven't adjusted off it. I'm going to do it mentally because I didn't adjust the Ravens Cowboys game. I haven't done it, but you have to drop Dallas off of that showing.
Absolutely.
A
lot of guys quit on that game last night there in the end.
Yeah. Which would so I'm going to drop Dallas a point off my number, and that's going to put me 6 on a neutral, 7 with some home field for San Fran. But if the 49ers lose this week, that's the soul crusher.
Yeah.
Okay. That's still, we're not going to the playoffs. And be aware of that. You know, if San Fran wins this week, this number's going to be what's the look ahead?
2.5 right now.
The 49ers and the Cowboys?
49ers are a 2.5-point favorite right now in Glendale.
That's too cheap.
That's cheap, right? Yeah, that's too cheap. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because if they beat Washington this week, even if they lose to Washington this week,
if they beat Washington, there's gonna be a touchdown.
Absolutely, it's going. Yep, it's going.
Yeah,
that's a good number.
Favored against Washington.
Yep. Yeah, I know.
That's that one. That one in Carolina stands out.
Love it.
Even if it's in Dallas, I like it -2.5. Okay.
So, yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dallas
That's too cheap.
done. Dallas less than a field goal dog. I know that's crazy. How about the Steelers? Monday Night Football next week, Week 15, guys. Pittsburgh Steelers laying 11.5 on their way to Cincinnati and the Bengals. How do you see that? How do you see that game, Teddy?
I got a 12-point power rating differential between the two teams. Cincinnati's worse than the Jets right now. You know, I want no part of the Bengals.
Yes.
Yes,
I'm with you.
They have no offensive line, no quarterback. Their top 5 cornerbacks are hurt.
Mm-hmm.
The markets are not, and they play Dallas this week. Even if they upset Dallas, we're not going to see.
Nope.
The markets won't like the spot for Pittsburgh. They're going to say, I can already hear my sharp buddies talking about, look at the spot. Don't forget the spot.
Yep.
This will be a sharp score divide game at Pittsburgh. But
time.
It's not going. I don't think it goes as high as 2 touchdowns. I don't think it goes as low as 10. It's in the right range.
Right where it should be. But that'll be Week 15, guys. So you got 2 spots on the card here. We talked about Carolina, and of course the 49ers made Teddy give you that side angle look here. And it's like you said, this is a great exercise. This is certainly giving you, we hope, a much better understanding of the markets and where the teams are, where the markets are at this point. We got a couple more weeks left to go, so there are some opportunities and some value to be had doing this, but you really want the value, you got to head over to sportsmemo.com, WagerTalk.com, because Teddy's plays they're up, they're ready to rock and roll. Teddy, all access is the way to go. In fact, I believe right now, Teddy, there's a way for the rest of the next 30 days. You can get all of your football plays next 30 days. I believe it's just $189 at both SportsMemo and WagerTalk.com. So you don't even have to worry about it. Teddy will do the work for you. You just got to cash the ticket. It's not a bad way to go, Teddy. It really isn't.
Look, I've been running pretty good. I've been running pretty good in college football. I've been running pretty good in the NFL.
Yep.
I'm never going to hard sell anyone, but if you want a Christmas present, there's worse Christmas presents to give yourself or to ask your significant other to get for you. So,
absolutely, yes.
I will do my best to help you win.
Good stuff, man. Does it each and every week. Guys, like this video. Go ahead, subscribe to us here on YouTube. Make sure you come back next week as we take a look to Week 16 and try to find some of that value on the look-ahead lines moving forward. He is Teddy Covers. I am Joe Raineri. Guys, thanks for stopping by. Best of luck this weekend. We'll talk to you again soon.